Diana Giles here from Skyline IT Management. And I wanted to go into a little bit about what I think small business owners need to understand about compliance requirements and how many of them are mistaken that compliance is the responsibility of their IT provider or their IT department. And there's really so much more to it than that. I'm going to use some examples of some requirements that are kind of typical across many of the compliance frameworks, just to kind of go into some of that and give you an idea of really try to understand why some of these things are not really IT related, or if they are not, they cannot be enforced by an IT department or an IT provider. For example, requiring unique and complex passwords. Well, right away, that really does sound like something that would be the responsibility of IT. And in many ways, it is. However, there are times when the IT department or MSP, managed service provider like ourselves, we don't have control over enforcing a password. If a password is for a certain website or an account that your company uses, that your IT provider does not have any control over the requirements of that entity, that app or website, then we don't have any control over that. That has to be something that is internally required of your staff and that your staff will adhere to. We can control the requirements on the applications like the Microsoft 365 accounts and whatever other accounts your IT provider is responsible for setting up and administering. Those we can enforce different password requirements and such. Another area, for example, restrict physical access to data systems, information assets, output devices, and storage locations to authorized personnel only. That's a compliance requirement. Your IT company can't really do anything about that. Establish and protect and maintain an infrastructure for physical access to secure areas. Again, that's something that business owners need to make sure that they are looking at and enforcing around their physical premises. Train all employees and third-party providers and security personnel on approved security and privacy policies tailored to their roles and responsibilities. I'm just pulling some of these from, the ones I've mentioned are from the FTC Safeguards compliance list. But when it comes to training employees, as an IT provider, I know we do, many other IT providers will provide a security and awareness training and even testing, where we send out testing emails to test whether employees are responding properly to emails based on maybe what they've learned in their training. We can do that. However, we cannot force your staff to keep up with their training. And those kind of things have to be done internally among your managers, your staff, your owners, and such. So that's an example of, yes, it is an IT related thing. We are providing the training and even the testing, but we can't make people do it. The same kind of goes for when people are looking at their password managers. We provide a password manager to all of our clients, but again, we cannot force them to be used. And even if you provide something like that, if people aren't using it, then they're not going to be getting the benefits of a password manager, such as making sure that passwords are complex, that they're not being reused. Because one of the things a password manager will do is, if somebody is trying to reuse a password, it might allow them to do so, but then it's going to show up as a report and they're going to get an alert about it or something like that. Let's look at another one here. Train all employees on incident response reporting. Again, this is a training issue, so that is an internal thing. Your IT provider certainly wants to be notified if you have some sort of incident or anything that you're concerned about that might possibly be some sort of compromise or incident. But again, we cannot make somebody report that. If they clicked on something and something weird happens that they just kind of ignore, we would want to know about it, but we can't make them let their IT provider know or their manager know so that the manager can let somebody know. Approve and periodically validate the security and controls of critical vendors and third-party organizations. So an IT provider can make sure that we are engaging with vendors that we trust and that we're confident in the controls that they implement across their systems. But we cannot be educated on all of the vendors and so forth that a client of ours might be engaging with. And so that is another thing that a small business owner needs to take into account when they are looking at making sure that they are compliant. Require phish-resistant MFA for all non-privileged account access. Now, this is one of those things where, again, we can control certain accounts. But if your IT provider is not involved in the account whatsoever, if it is a third-party application, a website, something that only people in your office deal with, that the IT provider is not handling what is allowed, we don't have any controls over whether MFA is enforced on a particular account, then we cannot do that. So you need to inform your staff that if they are setting up an account with something that, a service or so forth, that if MFA is an option, which it almost always is now, even if it's, not the best MFA, like texting or something like that, most accounts at least require some sort of MFA now. And so you always want to make sure that people are choosing the best multi-factor authentication that they can when they are establishing an account. But again, your IT provider or even your internal IT staff, if you're a larger company, doesn't have the power to enforce those things. Those have to be enforced by policies and people checking up on the policies and how they're being adhered to, or at least making sure that all of your staff are aware of what your policies are. So a big part of small business compliance is really the small business owners, managers, etc., making sure that they are aware of what the requirements are of the types of compliance that you have to adhere to, and establishing and enforcing the policies surrounding that compliance, and then partnering with your IT department or your IT company providers such as Skyline that helps you put into place the things that help you meet those requirements and secure your business as much as possible. I know that this has been a really long video, but I hope that it's given you some good food for thought on what you really need to look at when you're doing compliance. Compliance is a very complex topic. It's one of those things that a lot of business owners need some assistance with, especially when they are looking at trying to get cybersecurity insurance and so forth. So we can help with that. If you need to just have a discussion about, what is available for you in that area, please contact us and we'll be happy to have a free consultation with you. Thank you.